So, folks around college football are starting to say that Indiana is spending big time money for players next season. And if that's the case, sounds like some people are upset.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, and it is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen or your first watch every single day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day and the nation's #1 sports podcasting network. So thank you so much for making that so, and want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, on today's episode, we're going to talk Indiana basketball in the last two segments because Indiana just took its worst loss of the season. They've lost all hope, and their tournament lives are pretty much gone. And so we'll talk about that in the last two segments, plus how Indiana can bounce back or just move on from this season altogether. But we start today's show with some quotes from anonymous folks around college football, particularly in the Big Ten, in an article that On3 put together. And it's talking about the biggest spenders in college football. And it's talking about programs who are either already at the top, trying to get to the top, or in pursuit of the top. And it's talking about the teams who are spending the most money. Now, in this article, it goes on to talk about an SEC GM, a Big Ten GM, an ACC guy is in here as well, but they don't have their names because, that would be too easy. But they're talking about the programs in college football and the amount of money they believe is being spent. And an SEC general manager told On3 that LSU has the most expensive roster in college football. Someone from the Big 12 said that they have $40 million invested in their roster, does LSU. Some teams that were mentioned in here, Miami, Texas Tech, Texas, and with their recruiting classes and things, you would assume that that is the case between high school recruiting and the transfer portal, right? Someone said that Texas Tech can just outspend you. And yeah, that's not really a secret. But the reason I'm telling you is because Indiana continues to be named in these, not allegations, because they're not allegations, they're just true, right? These are statements, these are facts, these are people who are scared of what's happening in college football. Indiana continues to be brought up in these conversations. And nobody at IU is really shying away from this idea. I'm not going to tell you it's not happening. I'm not going to tell you that Indiana's not spending money on players for the transfer portal or high school recruiting, because guess what? They are. But here's what I'm going to say is Indiana just won a national championship with a bunch of 3-stars on the team that they were paying an okay salary. Wait until the Hoosiers start paying big-time money like everybody else is paying, not to the extreme, like Texas Tech paying Brendan Sorsby $5 million for a one-year rental at quarterback. I will never, ever, ever, ever come to like that. I think that is just idiotic. I think it's idiotic, but wait until Indiana starts flirting with that idea, starts paying the biggest players. Josh Hoover's getting paid. Okay, let's go ahead and put that out there. Josh Hoover's getting paid, and he's getting paid well. He ain't getting $5 million for 1 year. I can go ahead and tell you that right now very confidently. But college football's in big trouble. And people bringing up Indiana's name in all of this are just worried about what the Hoosiers are going to do for years to come, as long as Curt Cignetti's the head coach. And so in this new era of college football, heck, let's expand it out. In this new era of college athletics, why is it a bad thing to spend money on your roster? Why is it a bad thing to be in the same conversations as Ohio State, Oregon, Alabama, Texas Tech, LSU, these teams that are on the forefront of paying to compete? Because I'm big in this aspect in sports. Right? The common term or the common phrase is pay to win. right? That's a term used in the gaming world, pay to win. College sports and sports in general are not pay to win. They're pay to compete. Look at the LA Dodgers in Major League Baseball. Do they win it every year? No, they've won a lot because they spent a bunch of money and they've got all the good players because they're paying to compete. Same thing in college athletics. Texas Tech is spending a boatload of money on their roster. Does that guarantee they're going to win a national championship? No, because you still have to have coaching. You still have to have a little luck. You still have to have your team make it through the season and not get major injuries, right? That's how this whole thing works. And so why is it such a bad thing for Indiana to be in this conversation? From our vantage point and from my opinion, this is a great thing for Indiana. We want to be in these conversations. We want to have the numbers to back up what we're doing as national champions of the college football world. We want to be in the same room as these folks, and we are. And this goes for high school recruiting, transfer portal, and beyond. Because Indiana has a seat at the table. Indiana is the top dog in the world right now. I don't care how much money Lane Kiffin spends at LSU. I don't care if they do it legally or not. Indiana's still top dog, and you can't take that away from us. So I think it's funny how people are getting riled up, right? And a lot of these anonymous GMs and NIL coordinators or whatever they want to call themselves are calling out teams like, again, a Notre Dame or an Ohio State or a Texas, right? And they're throwing all these big names out there. They're just crying. They're just complaining, right? And yes, it's easy to speak like this at the top, but guess what? We're at the top. And we're allowed to talk like this. Is Indiana spending LSU, Texas Tech money? No. And we probably never will. But we have something that they don't, and that's a national championship winning coach. We have a coaching staff that's been together for years and is locked down and is not going anywhere. Indiana has a program. Those folks have teams that they're trying to build and piece together and just throw money at and hope that it works. And one year it probably will. But Indiana doesn't need to spend that kind of money to win big games and compete for national championships. So let them keep talking. Let them be upset. Let them be worried about Indiana. And I'm telling you, if they're not worried, they must have been living in a cave for a couple of years and just crawled out and haven't gotten on their phone recently, because Indiana is the defending national champions. And if the Hoosiers continue to shuck out all this money and continue to climb and grow rather than going from nothing and trying to just skyrocket like a lot of these other teams, if Indiana keeps doing it the right way, the Hoosiers are not done winning games. They're not done winning championships and trophies. College football is worried about Indiana. They're worried about a lot of other things. And I may not be the biggest fan of where it's going, but I promise you Indiana's at the forefront of it all, and the Hoosiers are doing what it takes to win championships. All right, coming up on today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers, we'll flip to basketball because football might be winning, but basketball certainly is not. We talk about the worst loss of the season. Yes, I said it. It's true. We talk about the worst loss of the season for Indiana against Northwestern right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. All right, here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience. So if you got a team that you like already, we're getting back into things right after the All-Star break. We're about a week or so in, maybe a little bit more than that. You got find a team. You think they're going to win it all? Cool. Use that profit boost on that NBA future, and you're automatically entered into the NBA sweepstakes. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by TurboTax. Tax season doesn't have to take over your life. This year, TurboTax is making it easier than ever to just hand things off and move on with your day. With TurboTax Full Service, you can have your taxes done for you by a trusted local expert, start to finish, without the stress or the guesswork. Folks, I just did mine. I literally just used TurboTax to get my stuff done. Mine's simple, mine's easy, hand it off, let them do it. I don't have to worry about it. And why I like it is I'm not smart enough to do all of that. I don't have all my, even if I do have all my papers together, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to put them in. I don't know how to do that. I'm a busy guy and I just don't have time for it. Plus, I like to know that somebody's doing it professionally, so the folks in the government aren't going to come after me for some money that I owe them that I had no idea, right? You just don't want to mess with all that stuff. So that's where TurboTax comes in. And for a limited time, you can have our taxes done by a local TurboTax expert for just $150 all in. If a TurboTax expert did not file for you last year, just file by February 28th. So we're coming up on that. That's this weekend, okay? That's Saturday. So take taxes off your plate and get back to your life. Visit TurboTax.com/local today. All right, welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here again, making this your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, if you're listening on the audio side of things, thank you so much. Be sure you subscribe to the show. It's free. It's easy. Also, drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. My goodness, there are a lot of you in there, so thank you so much for that. If you're watching it live or listening and watching it later, that's a huge way to help us grow. So be sure you drop those thoughts in the YouTube comments as well. And again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Indiana falls to Northwestern 72-68 inside of Assembly Hall. Season on the line, and the Hoosiers said, we're good. We're good. We don't need it. We don't want it. You can have it. And you lose by 4 to a Northwestern team who is just simply not a good basketball team. They're not a good team. They've won 2 in a row now. They've won inside Assembly Hall. Pretty good. They're still under 500 this year. They've still only won a handful of games in Big Ten play, and you got beat by 1 player. Yeah, the West kid had 16, but you got beat by Nick Martinelli, who you held in check in the first half. Let's talk about this. All right, let's talk about this because we're going to talk about tournament hopes, which you have none. We'll talk about that in a minute. Plus likes and dislikes. That'll be interesting. But let's try to break this down a little bit and try to wrap my head around what the heck we just watched in the first 20 minutes of this game and the second 20 minutes in this game. The first half and the second half. First half, Indiana played lights out. Indiana played some of the best basketball it could have played. Let's start defensively, believe it or not. I'd like to start on that end of the floor. You hold Northwestern to 33 points in the first half. You have them shoot 50%, but they made some tougher shots. Only 3 of 7 from beyond the arc, and they only shoot 6 free throws. Okay. I like it. You barely get out rebounded 12-10, which that's a whole nother conversation in just a moment, but you did your job. Martinelli had 7, West had 7, Reed had 7. Or Singleton had 7. All right, whatever. A little bit here, a little bit there, a little bit here, a little bit there. Nothing crazy, right? Defensively, just fine. The offensive side of the floor was what was exciting, right, with this team. Indiana puts up 42 points in the first half, 14 of those from Lamar. He goes 4 of 7 from deep. Sam Alexis gives you 8 points on 100% shooting from the floor. He looked good and aggressive and strong in the first half. You get 8 points from Nick Dorn, who hit a couple of shots from the outside and got to the free throw line as well. And Tayton Connerway looked aggressive with the basketball, and I thought we were going to get some more of that in the second half. But at the halftime break, I sat there in front of my television, and it was a 9-point lead for Indiana. And in that 9-point lead, because you finished the half poorly, and that was a foreshadowing event to what the second half would be, I sat there with a 9-point lead for our Hoosiers, and I was like, I don't know. This probably should have been more than that. This doesn't feel great. You're up by 9, feeling good. Come out and play a good second half, and you'll run away with this thing. But there was a pit down here right? Just below your ribs, just below your abdomen. Yeah, down there in your stomach, right? There was a pit in there, and I was like, man, we haven't played a whole lot of 40-minute basketball games this year, so I don't feel very confident in that. But we'll see what happens. You had maybe the worst start to the second half you've had all year, and you've had some bad ones. We've had terrible starts to the first half, or the second half, rather, this season. This one may have been the worst one. 8-2 was the run. You score the first bucket, you give up an 8-0 run just like that. All of a sudden, they've cut it to a couple of baskets, and here come the Cats. Here comes Northwestern, and Indiana just folded. We just crumbled. Man, we're like a bad prisoner that gets arrested. They're super hard. They're super stone cold right there in front of their buddies. They're not going to say anything, man. They can't get it out of me. And as soon as they get into the interrogation room one-on-one, they just spill it all, right? They just rat everybody out. They give it in, and they're like, nope, I can't do it. And they plead guilty to everything. That's pretty much Indiana when someone punches them in the mouth. When this team gets punched, they can't handle it. They're the bully until someone fights back. And when the other team fights back, Indiana's like, what? Whoa, they're not supposed to do that. Why'd they do that? And Indiana completely flipped. Northwestern made adjustments. Northwestern did things they were supposed to do. Northwestern got it into the hands of their best player. And Indiana had no idea what to do. The first half and second half splits in this game are truly remarkable. And I'm going to start on the offensive end of the floor, and then we'll go back to defense. In the first half, Indiana shot 62.5% from the floor. 62.5% from the floor, 50% from three. And you made a couple of free throws as well. You were competitive in the rebounding battle. In the second half, you shot 31% from the floor, 17% from three, made some free throws, and got dogged on the boards 22-13. The other stat, offensively for Indiana, first half, you make 15 buckets. 15 made buckets from the floor. 14 of them came off the hands of another teammate. 14 assists in the first half on 15 made buckets. That's absurd. That's good Indiana basketball. Second half, you make just 8 shots from the floor, including, what was it, a 9-minute stretch where you didn't make a bucket the entire... What? 9 minutes you didn't make a shot from the floor other than a free throw. You make 8 total shots in the second half. 4 of them come off of an assist. That's terrible. And folks, most of that was not because of Northwestern adjusting. Most of that was not from what the Cats did and drew up in the locker room. They're not that good. Okay? Collins is a good coach. He ain't that good. All right? So that was on the offensive end of the floor. Let's swing back to the defensive side, where you give up just 33 points in the first half. You give up 39 in the second half. But the difference is Northwestern makes it look easy. They made the same amount of shots, believe it or not, 13 in the first half, 13 in the second half. They doubled their free throw attempts in the second half. Told you about getting out rebounded as well. Second chance points, I thought it would be more than what it was in the second half for the game. You got beat 12-1 if you're Indiana. Because offensive rebounds, you get beat 11-5. Total rebounds, you get beat 34-23. And you just have no response. And Nick Martinelli showed why he's the Big Ten's leading scorer. And Indiana just looked, pitiful defensively. Pitiful. And that's so on coaching to me. And here's what says it all for Indiana. Here's what says it all. I already mentioned the one play. Let's mention it again. Down the stretch. You've blown the lead. Right, Indiana, you've blown the lead. What was it? 4 or 3 minutes to play, whatever it was. Northwestern takes the lead, and you're like, oh, this is not good. This is not good. Indiana has just gone ice cold on the offensive end. It's pure ISO ball, AAU. You've got Tucker DeVries taking step-back baseline jumpers on Martinelli because they're in a you-know-what measuring contest. How stupid is that? I don't care that he made that shot. How stupid do you have to be to get into a one-on-one I'm better than you contest in a game where their season doesn't matter and yours does? Tucker folded tonight, as he always does, as this team always does. And speaking of Tucker, let's go to the defensive end of the floor. Back-to-back buckets for Northwestern to win this game, to seal it at the end. Both scored by Nick Martinelli, who again had 28 points, 5 boards, 3 assists on 12 of 21 shooting. Did the Big Ten's leading scorer. Northwestern went to their best player, and in back-to-back trips, he schooled Indiana. He first schooled Tucker because he just out-bullied him, outmanned him, right? And just backed him down and scored. And Indiana brought no help defense, because that makes sense to let Tucker DeVries, who'd gotten owned all second half, to allow him to continue to be on an island. And then you thought that was bad. The very next trip down the floor after a poor shot by Indiana, here's Nick Martinelli again on the low block by himself. And there's one Indiana Hoosier in the vicinity. And it's Connor Enright. The smallest dude on the floor is the one guarding Nick Martinelli, who does what he's supposed to do. Backs him down, scores easily, ball game, over. That's coaching. That's coaching, folks. How do you not put a double on Nick Martinelli at any point in this second half? And you didn't do it. You didn't do it. I don't know if the coaching staff just doesn't have the... I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. I genuinely don't. This was one of the more baffling coaching mishaps I've seen in quite some time. And this loss is on everybody. This is not on one player. This is not on all the players. This is not on one coach or all the coaches. This is everybody involved, brother. This is everybody involved. Where your season was on the line and you couldn't beat a bad Northwestern team. 72-68 final score. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about Indiana making or missing the tournament. You know what my answer is. Plus likes and dislikes. That's coming up here on this edition of Locked On Hoosiers.
I'm Kalia Butler, host of Locked On Women's Basketball, and this is Mazda's Women's Basketball Snapshot, celebrating the work no highlight reel can ever capture. South Carolina rolled past Ole Miss 85-48 to clinch a share of the SEC regular season title and lock down the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. The Gamecocks extended their win streak over Ole Miss to 21 straight. UCLA dominated Wisconsin 80-60 to secure its first outright Big Ten regular season championship in program history. The Bruins improved to 27-1 overall and remain unbeaten in conference play. And number 12 TCU stormed back from a 13-point fourth quarter deficit to beat Iowa State 80-73. The Horned Frogs now sit alone atop the Big 12 standings and are 1 win away from clinching another regular season conference crown. These moments are earned off the clock, those long before the lights ever come on. The sweat, the fakes, the doubt, the scrapes, and coming back for more every time. Mazda puts that same drive into every detail. Wins define the moment, putting in the work, that defines you. There's more to a Mazda because there's more to you.
This live edition of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by Indeed. With workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, and an inbox that's overflowing, and you've got that one position that you've got to fill, and it's still sitting open. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, that is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for: skills, experience, and location. Does Indiana need sponsored jobs? I don't think we're there yet, but hey, so you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post, right? So here's the stat you need to know. In about a minute or so that I'm talking to you here, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Listeners of this show right now, Locked On Hoosiers, you're going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast right now, and support our show by saying you heard about it on Locked On Hoosiers. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, that's a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. All right, final segment on this edition of Locked On Hoosiers. Again, thank you so much for being here as Indiana falls 72-68 against Northwestern. And you've heard me say it. Is Indiana a tournament team? Are the Hoosiers still alive to go dancing in the NCAA tournament? My answer is absolutely not. Absolutely not. Guys, this was a terrible loss. This was so bad. Northwestern is 79th in the net rankings. This wouldn't have even been a quad one game if you had gone to their place, right? Because that's top 75 in the net when you go on the road. So this was not a quad one game on the road. This was not a quad one game on neutral site. And my goodness, this was not a quad one game on your home floor. That's a Northwestern team that has a quad 3 loss. That's a Northwestern team that's 1-10 in quad 1 games. Was this a quad 1 for them? It was. It absolutely was. Yeah, top 75 on the road. Absolutely. Congratulations, Indiana. You just gave Northwestern their second quad 1 win of the season. They doubled their total tonight, and they did it inside of Assembly Hall. Nicely done, guys. That's fantastic. So, no, the Hoosiers are not going dancing. And let's be honest. Let's ask ourselves, right? Let's take off our cream and crimson colored glasses here. I can't even get it out. Cream and crimson colored glasses. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Let's take them off for a second, right? You can do it physically or, however. Is the team that you watched tonight on the floor, is that a tournament team to you? Is that a team that on that Thursday, the first day of the NCAA tournament, maybe some of you wackos like myself take off of work, right? You sit in your recliner, you've got all the TVs going, right? You're feeling good. It's tournament time, man. And when you turn on that game, you've got it in the top right of your screen. And there's this team called Indiana that's playing, and they're playing some, 6 seed or whatever the case may be. Is that a team that screams tournament to you? Is that a team that you can picture playing on your television in the NCAA tournament? I can't. Yeah, maybe the first half of today's game, but not the second half, and not this team as a whole. Because guess what? You don't play just 20 minutes of basketball. You play 40 or more if that's what it takes. And this Indiana team can't do that consistently. So, no, you are not a tournament team. And your season is pretty much over. And I hate for that to be the case with 2 big ones left. And maybe if you went out, the tournament committee will throw you a bone. I doubt it. I wouldn't, but I disagree with the tournament committee a lot. So who knows? But I don't think you're an NCAA tournament team. So let's do likes and dislikes. Let's wrap up the show with likes and dislikes. We've talked about a lot of them, and I see a lot of you dropping them in here too. I've never seen a different. We've seen changes in first half, second half, right? Good and bad, whatever. But that was the most 180. And God, I feel like I've said that so many times with this Indiana team this year. But that's a dislike for me, man. It's a like for how you played in the first half. Because my God, if you played like that all the time, you might be undefeated because of how you shot the basketball, especially with how you started, right? You were 7 of your first 10 from downtown or something stupid like that. You're not going to do it for 40 minutes. And we know that this Indiana team is not going to do it. But here's a dislike for me. It's the idea that when you come back down to earth, right, you shoot up real quick, you kind of plateau. And eventually we know that this Indiana team is going to start slowly coming back down to earth on the offensive end of the floor. What they were doing in the first half, shooting 3, Sam Alexis in pick and roll, Sam Alexis in flex cuts, Lamar Wilkerson off ball movement and getting him open looks. All of that was fantastic. That's a huge like for me. But you just abandoned it in the second half. You just said, to hell with that. Let's just shoot as many threes as we can and hope that they go in. You weren't shooting with confidence. You were shooting with hope, with desperation. And you could smell it, bro. It reeked through the rafters of Assembly Hall, the desperation that Indiana played with down the stretch. They lost it offensively. And this was poor, man. So that's a huge dislike for me. Your defensive effort is just terrible. I mean, this team just doesn't care about defense. They don't care about hustle. They don't care about defense. They don't care about heart. They don't care about effort. They just want to shoot. They just want to go and shoot the basketball. That's fine. Go find a league overseas that'll let you do that. College basketball in the Big Ten doesn't operate that way. And maybe you are built for the NBA because that's all they do. All right, that's all they do is run and shoot. They don't care about defense. They don't care about offensive sets. But that's not how Big Ten basketball works in college. And this team on that end of the floor was a huge dislike for me. I talked about not doubling Nick Martinelli. That is one of the wildest non-decisions I think I've ever seen. You just let him destroy you. You just let Optimus Prime walk into your house and just rip it apart. And you were like, well, we don't have anything to compete with that. So, oh, well, ain't no way one person can beat us. Well, he did. And then he had a supporting cast good enough, right, to get it done. A dislike for me is just how this team carries itself, right? Again, I can't get over Tucker DeVries getting in a one-on-one just I'm better than you contest with Nick Martinelli. Where does that make sense? Why, in what world did you look at yourself and say, yeah, I think this is what I want. I think this is what we need. I think I'm the one to get us out of this. Guess what, Tucker? You're not. You're not. And I'm not going to go, at least not on this show, not right now. I'm not going to go into the father-son relationship here. I'm not ready to go there. I know a lot of fans are, and that's fine. You are more than welcome to do that. But this team is just not built to win big games. They're not even built to win mediocre games. And so, yeah, a lot of dislikes for me tonight, man. That was probably your worst second half performance altogether of the season in your biggest game of the season. And you couldn't get up for a team that I think you are better than, but you're not better coached. You're not more disciplined. You are a bad team on any given night. And sometimes you get hot. Sometimes you get on a run. But Indiana proved tonight that we are simply just a pieced together with bubble gum and paper clips team. And we're limping our way to the finish line. And that finish line does not have NCAA tournament written on it. It just doesn't. So Indiana falls 72-68 to Northwestern. I think your season's done, but maybe you get hot. Maybe the tournament committee thinks differently. Indiana's got Michigan State coming in on Sunday afternoon. We'll talk more about this as we go along, so be sure you subscribe to the show. Follow us on your audio podcasting platforms as well. A full episode tomorrow, Hoosier fans, okay, on Locked On Hoosiers on the YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much for being here. Greatly appreciated. Until next time, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and we'll talk to you later.